and welcome to another episode of Gov Tech Today. I'm Jen Seha, your host. We aim to bridge .com and .gov here at Gov Tech Today. We have another guest that I'm super excited to host today. Tim Galluzi is the Chief Information Officer for the state of Nevada. Tim, hey, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Jen. Thanks for having me.
So, why don't you just share a little bit of your background? Definitely kind of government service, but in a few different areas of government that I don't think we see very often here.
Yeah, Jen. I've been doing the IT stuff now for about 20 years. Got my start serving in the United States Marine Corps as a telecommunications Marine, doing radio systems and telephone systems. Did that for 8 years and found my way into the great state of Nevada. Fell in love with the Sierra Nevada mountains, uh, and just really started working my way up through the public service side in Nevada, starting off in higher education, eventually making my way to the executive branch, and one promotion led to the next, and I eventually found my way to this desk as the state's chief information officer.
So, why don't you give us a little background on the structure in Nevada? Our listeners are probably most familiar with California. We're federated. Our CIO gives guidance. The joke with our state CIO is like, if something goes bad, you're on the hook. But if something goes good, then like someone else gets the credit. Why don't you just give us a little perspective on how things are sort of structured in Nevada?
Yeah, Nevada's not too dissimilar from California in that regard. Um, I like to talk about Nevada's structure in the IT environments as kind of a hybrid federated environment where we do have a central IT organization, and that's the organization that I'm the head of, where we provide enterprise level services, the network services, the centralized compute environment, the business productivity suites, our central cybersecurity team, but we do have agencies with rather large IT shops that reside outside of the central IT organization. And while I am responsible to the governor for setting IT policy and strategy, and we run statewide IT governance groups, um, there is uh, that fiercely federated environment still where agencies kind of still have their own IT shops, and we've been working on building better relationships, better collaboration opportunities with those agencies. The charge of my organization is to really look for opportunities to find efficiencies, to reduce duplicative spend across the executive branch on IT solutions, to really make better use of taxpayer dollars. We're really looking at uh, potentially lean times moving forward in the next year or two, and so we really owe it to our taxpayers to look for any opportunities we can to find efficiencies, and that's where central IT organizations are really poised for being able to leverage that.
So, one of those no brainer areas to me is something that you guys have been doing a ton of work on, and that's cybersecurity,
Yeah.
right? It makes a lot of sense. And frankly, when you're looking at this sort of whole of state strategy for cybersecurity, give us a little more insights on as to how that came about, what the thought was, and sort of how you guys are dealing with that. It's top of mind. Cybersecurity is top of mind for everyone in government.
Yeah,
So what are you
and it really
guys
should
working
be.
on over there? Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Cybersecurity is absolutely foundational for everything that we do. I'm a firm believer that, that is, one of our core foundational responsibilities to our residents, to our constituents, is to protect the infrastructure and to protect their data that they entrust us with. And, we are so interconnected now from every level of government, from our cities, our counties, our school districts. And when we really started mapping it out, when we really started looking uh, at all of these interconnections from schools to our county commissions to our elections office, they all connect back to the executive branch at some point. And so we really needed to have a whole of state conversation. And then, we had the opportunity and we continue to have, hopefully, the opportunity with the state and local cybersecurity grant funding to really take a holistic picture and do a whole estate effort. And we had a conversation with a legislator, and he was really interested in doing something cybersecurity. He felt that there was a chance to do something, and there was a gap in Nevada, and there's always more maturity, right? Like we can always be doing something better. And he asked us, "What can we do?" And one of the topics of conversation that came up was, we need to collaborate better at multiple levels of government within the state. And the topic of a security operations center came up, and he was willing to help us draft a bill and run that through our legislative session. Here in Nevada, we do a biennial legislative session, so we're in that right now, so we're kind of in the thick of it. And so that bill is currently pending in committee right now, and we're hopeful that it'll continue to move. But this bill will effectively grant my organization the ability to work directly with municipal partners, with K through 12, with higher education, provide those direct services, those security operations services to all of those entities. And it calls it out specifically. And, where we may be able to provide those services kind of ad hoc right now, but this explicitly lays it out that we can provide direct security operations services to them. So we're really hopeful that this bill moves forward.
That's
It really
incredible.
applies
Like,
that whole state approach. Yeah.
yeah, it's so important. It's so necessary. I frankly am shocked that you guys don't have that because like something goes sideways, they're calling you. And if you're like, "Oh, I don't even have the authority. Like I don't have a stick. I don't even really have a carrot." We're just kind of working on it. So I mean, all hands on deck. Anyways, the vendor community can help you push this through. Anyways, your local governments can help push this through. Like it has to happen.
Yeah.
Um, and
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 we and
s-
we've had a bunch of support already,
good.
and that's I think that's helpful. That's gotten us to where we're at right now. Even just having the conversation is incredibly helpful.
What do you think the
Um,
opposition is? Is it like a price tag?
it's new, and sometimes new is scary. It's a novel approach, um, you know, and I think that there's so many benefits to this, right? One of the really cool components to this bill that I think is not getting enough attention is it actually has a talent pipeline component to it. Uh, you know, Nevada has not been known, but I hope it is known soon as a magnet for IT talent. And this bill will help us do that. We actually have this bill will actually create a talent pipeline component where we're going to partner with our Nevada system of higher education to create a talent pipeline that can actually work with the Security Operations Center to help provide uh, staffing for a Security Operations Center. So that's really exciting as well.
That's really awesome. Another area that I think is sort of ripe for the cybersecurity conversation is AI. And
Yep.
you can't do a government technology podcast without talking about AI. So you probably figured this was coming.
Absolutely.
Cybersecurity is ripe for it, right? Because you just mentioned it. Like we don't have enough staff to do this and our adversaries are using AI, right? Like all the ransomware, all the attacks, all the threats are using AI. So how are you guys using AI to sort of counter that? And does that factor into this whole discussion of like let us centralize things so we can maybe have more visibility into these?
Yeah. Right now, we are in a proverbial arms race. And unfortunately, in a lot of areas, we're losing. We do not have the resources to perceive every threat that's out there, to defend against every threat that's out there. You know, our adversaries, they have to get lucky once, and they're in, and they can do a lot of damage, and we have to be good every single time. And so, AI gives us that opportunity to uh, match fire with fire, effectively. And, that's, that's really how we're going to leverage it. And we're already seeing a lot of AI components to our toolkits that were already in play in our environment. And obviously, I can't go into a lot of specifics, but they're already being embedded into a lot of our toolkits, and they have for a number of years. As far as pattern detection, threat detection, we have seen AI already being deployed in our cybersecurity tools, but the tools are getting so much better, and so that's what's incredibly exciting. Unfortunately, a lot of our municipals haven't been able to afford those tools, so a whole estate approach. Uh, Through like a security operations center can really help leverage economies of scale, bring up the overall statewide security maturity, and be able to provide those toolkits out to everybody.
Well, and I think not even just like from a fiscal, financial, but from a knowing what's happening out
Yeah,
there and
intelligence sharing.
staying on the cutting edge of technology is like not something that government is super awesome at, right? Because like you find a tool, an AI tool, and you're like, yes, we need that. We have to go into a POC. We have to make sure it meets these guidelines.
Yeah,
We're going to do we're going to pilot this because we're a little wary about it. I mean, like the big joke here at Gov Tech Today is, like emerging technology in government is like 3 to 5 years behind like the rest of the commercial world. And like our adversaries are there today. Like they're using AI. They don't have to go through a whole analysis and everything. They're like, let's just try it. Government, on the other hand, where, we're trying to combat this every day, is like, we're a little more cautious, and rightfully so. Like, government
mhm,
is just risk averse. Change is hard. And so I think AI is one of these areas, though, where government is really being pushed to like adopt this and adopt it now, do it safely, do it with concerns about privacy, do it to protect ourselves. But cybersecurity to me is one of those areas where like we have to. We have to,
absolutely.
and I'm so glad that you guys are. Like, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and, AI and government, like, it just works, right? Like, you think about a lot of government processes, a lot of what government is built around, it's policy-based, right? A lot of the services that we provide, a lot of what we do in government, it's bureaucratic in nature, yes, but a lot of that is based off of policy. A lot of what we do is repeatable, and so where AI really thrives is based off of patterns. And so, taking kind of a step away from the cybersecurity side of the house and a lot of the cybersecurity benefits from AI, we look at what AI can really bring to governments right off the bat and very quickly is on the efficiency side of the house. And where AI is really good at is, identifying patterns, creating efficiencies, uh, being able to automate tasks and being able to bolster the state workforce that we have because I would put bets on anybody that could show me one department from any agency across any government that says that they have enough resources, right? Like very few of them are out there, I promise, but everyone can use a little bit more help. And that's one of the things that a lot of these AI tools can do is that they can bolster the resources that we currently have and provide that little bit of help.
Yeah, I think you're right. We have the same concerns in California is this going to replace jobs? We have a
Yeah.
super strong union structure in California, and
Yep.
they hear about generative AI and they lose their minds. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, no, like this is going to make your employees' lives so much better, so much
Right.
easier. They're going to be able to get to some of that stuff that they maybe haven't ever had time to get to because they're able to use AI now.
Right. One of the first things we did, which a lot of states did, and it was actually one of the best practices, right? A lot of the state CIOs they launched first a guidance document, right? The first shot across the bow, a guidance memo. Hey, this stuff is out there. Please use it safely. And then the next step is we all got together and started setting up committees, stakeholder groups to develop our AI policies. And we did that here in Nevada, and it took about a year to get all the stakeholders together and figure out like, hey, what are the minimum guidelines? What are our guardrails? How are we going to manage the safe use of AI technologies for the state of Nevada. And we did just that. And some of the key fundamental pieces of that, how are we going to use it ethically? And how are we going to ensure that the outputs are safe? And one of the key pillars of the ethical use of AI is to ensure that a human remains in the process. And so when we talk about human displacement from the use of generative AI tools, it talks back to that process, right? Like you got to keep a human in the loop to ensure that the tool is not producing information that the human wouldn't do themselves. So, I think just like you said, it's going to bolster our workforce. It's going to um, hopefully speed up their tasks, remove the tasks that are boring, monotonous, repetitive, and really empower our workforce to deal with the really creative tasks, the ones that really leverage the human empathy and creativity that we really value our workforce for.
I love that. And yeah, I mean, it's super fun to sort of watch it be adopted, and like some of the most impactful uses of it are those that like really touch humans. Like we're
Yeah.
going to in a couple weeks we're going to be chatting with our department, our Cal Fire, our Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, and like literally saving lives and how we're using AI to sort of help us in doing that.
We've
Um
got a fun use case there too.
tell me more about it.
Ooh, yes. So, here in Nevada, we have a system called Alert Wildfire. And so I don't want to steal your next guest thunder, but
That's fine. You can.
we've got a AI vision system that uses uh, remote cameras that are mounted on remote sites all the way across the Sierras and other remote areas, and they are really good at spotting smoke. And if they spot this smoke, they are able to alert first responders to go out and very rapidly address the potential wildfire situation, because it's obviously much easier to address that wildfire when it's small versus when it starts to grow. So
I
that's a
love
really cool
that.
use case for us.
I love that. I mean, Nevada has a number of awesome use cases and resources. And I know, like, you're just back from NASCIO, the
Yep.
National Association of State CIOs. And, like, I imagine that a lot of the discussions are around, like, sharing best practices,
Mhm.
right? Like, no one
Absolutely.
in government is ever doing anything that probably hasn't been tried or done somewhere else in government at some point in
Yeah.
history. So, I love just like your willingness to engage. I mean, we ran into each other at a chief procurement officers
Yep.
conference, which I'm like, what are you doing here? This is awesome. But yeah, I mean, I love just sort of the willingness to be like, hey colleagues, what are you guys doing? Like
Right.
no one's recreating wheels here. And so learning together is sort of one of the things that I think you and your team are excellent at. And so kudos on that.
So my favorite things about this community is, we're not competitors, right? Like we are all looking to make the lives of our residents and our constituents better. And if we can share information to make our jobs a little bit easier and share those lessons learned and those pain points, then we're gonna do it. Because this is a hard job. And if we can make it just a little bit easier for our colleagues, then we're gonna do it.
So let me ask you a little bit about modernization. Like what does your IT infrastructure look like? How out of date is it? And what are your strategies
Yeah.
to sort of tackle that? Especially in, you mentioned it in like constrained budget times.
It's constantly evolving, and I think we saw, just over the past 3, 4 years with the historic increase in federal funding with ARPA and all the COVID money, a massive push to modernize and, transform legacy systems, and we're kind of in the depth of that right now. We've got transformation efforts going, all the way across the board from our Department of Taxation through our unemployment office, our Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation, our our Department of Health and Human Services has a massive effort going right now with our No Wrong Door effort. Our Department of Motor Vehicles has a major transformation effort going on. So we are in the thick of it. We're doing a massive effort to kind of roll off mainframe right now, as in pretty much every state in the nation is right now, unless they've already done it. We're all kind of going through it, and it is difficult. There I don't think that there's ever enough resources. There's never enough staff, and it is definitely a challenge. And um, the difficult part is once you think that you're all the way through it, um, it's time to kind of hit the reset button and
Your
kind of roll
legacy
through it.
again, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
and so I think it's really on us to really kind of build out that roadmap to kind of drop this legacy conversation and kind of drop that legacy term out of our vernacular, because I think it's just going to be an ongoing cyclical um, conversation. And you know, we can't expect historic tranches of funding, every 5, 10 years. Right. And so I think we have to get more modular. We have to get more agile and start to not, have these massive monolithic platforms like we've kind of relied on historically. Right. Because that just creates these massive lifts that we just kind of get buried in.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's moving to a model of, like, more continuous incremental
Yeah.
modernization.
And we're seeing that with some of the modern platforms is, like you're doing more agile releases and is staying as up to date as possible. And, that is um, hopefully a more sustainable approach long term. And it's not an approach that a lot of governments were able to engage in 20 years ago.
I think a lot of it goes to, like, the change management and the
Yep.
thinking of new ways to do it, because it's cool to say we're agile, but, like, you're not truly agile until, like, all the systems that feed into that, your budget, your procurement cycles, your contract management, like, those all have
Yeah.
to be agile too. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of have a misstep is like, you can't just call it agile. Like, in
Yeah.
all of the systems that support that type of modernization, like ongoing incremental, like, I'll never forget in California, a legislator was like, when is this considered done? And,
Yep.
like, the technologist that was sitting there answering the questions was like, "Never, sir." And, like, that's such a bad
Yep.
answer for that legislator. They're like, you could see, like, the steam coming out of their ears, but, like, that's sort of where we need to get to and where we need to really think about, life cycle
Yeah.
costs, ongoing maintenance, and refreshing. Otherwise, you get in a trench and you're like, "Our entire tech stack is outdated." Like, it's
Yeah.
all end of life, and then you're in a really hurt place, right?
And I think industry has actually done government a lot of favors there. And so, government technology in the past has really relied on CapEx, where give me a large tranche of money and I can replace ABC. And and that was the model. And that's why we end up with significant amounts of tech debt, because it's really hard to go ask for that very large tranche of money every few years. And so what industry has moved to, and what has really kind of gotten into the common vernacular, is this subscription based model. Like, here's what it costs for this service. And now I think that kind of plays better into the ongoing support and agile methodologies to really keep these systems up to date and keep them modern. So you're not building into a system that is going to put you into a situation where you're 10, 20 years into tech debt.
Yeah, you're right. The whole as a service model, I mean, it's
Mhm.
on everything, right? Software,
Yeah,
infrastructure, platforms, managed services, all of it is as a service, and you're right, government has sort of picked up on this, and it is a way to sort of spread the risk, but also spread that expense over a longer
right.
period of time.
Now our challenge is, how do we, um, going back to your story about how that legislator wanting to get that win. When is this done? Because what they're, you know, when you really peel back the onion there, what they're looking for is where's the ROV? Where's the return on vote? Right? If I'm investing in this thing, I want to eventually find a finish line so I can go back to my constituency and say, look, I invested in this thing, it's providing this service. That is a win for you as my constituent. And so what does that equate to? That shows that that legislator, that elected official is getting the job done, and they're doing what they were elected to do. That's ROV, return on vote, right? And so how do we still provide that as technologists to that key stakeholder group? And I think there's still a way that we can kind of tell that story in this subscription based model, right? And that's well defined sprints, right? Like, hey, in Q1 this year, here's what we're going to be able to deliver with this set of upgrades, right? And still be able to define some real wins,
Yep.
some real success stories that, that stakeholder group could still go back out to their constituency and say, hey, look, we invested in this platform, we did ABC, and then here's how it impacts you as, you know, uh, this real, kitchen table story.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's the focus on the impact, right? Like this
Yep.
citizen experience. Like, do I still hate going to the DMV? No, it's a lot better now. Like it's
Yeah.
not what it used to be. You're right. Like that's not as sexy as like, the giant scissors and the ribbon. And
Right.
that's what those legislators want. But at the end of the day, when you're like, your constituents are happy, here's why, here's the investment that made that happen. Yeah, I think it's a different model and change is so hard, but I think we're
Right.
getting there.
And it's funny you should mention the ribbon cutting and whatnot, because when we were talking about the security operations center, one of our stakeholders in that effort was talking about, well, if this was a couple fire trucks, we wouldn't have any trouble at all. And, he was probably right because, fire trucks, those are very tangible. Those are, you could touch them, you could see them, you could feel them, you see them in your community. But when we're talking about stuff that's relatively intangible, like it's servers, it's subscriptions, it's licenses,
Yeah. You gotta
how do
throw,
we
like
tell that story?
you have to throw up some computer screens and put some graphics up there and put a bunch of desks in an auditorium. You have to have, like, a physical sock
Right.
because 'cause you're right, like, that is sexy. That's what they all wanna hold a press conference at the sock, and I'm like, I understand the industry, like, I know that that's not actually where any of that stuff is happening, but, like,
Those feeds are going off to some
totally,
office
right?
somewhere
Like,
else.
yeah, it's everywhere. Your sock is virtual. Like, it's
Mhm.
in all these guys', home offices. That's where the sock is actually happening. But, like, I remember the days when, like, we would physically have to go, like, an emergency is happening. You need to go sit at a desk at the sock, like the physical emergency operations center out in a suburb of Sacramento here.
Yep.
And it's such a different model today. But you're right. Like, those visuals are they still rely on those a lot, like, it
Absolutely.
happens. Alright, well, I wanna get a little personal here,
Okay.
not too personal, and sort of put you on the spot with a couple things. What is the worst part of your job?
The worst part of my job. Um, I would say not being able to get everything done that I want to get done as fast as I can. Um, when we talk about speed of state, um, it's very real. I'm sure that has been an ongoing theme in a lot of your conversations with a lot of your guests. But speed of state is real. It is, and it's by design too, right? And it takes a lot of time to really adjust to the varying degrees of tempo in this line of work. It is slow at times, and you really have to project out years in advance for some of the very big things that you want to accomplish, and then hope that you're still around when it comes to fruition. And that's a challenge. And you really have to have a lot of patience and perseverance in order to see those things through. Um, and I want to accomplish big things here in Nevada. And I know that in the past few years that I've been in this role, like I've already accomplished some really big things. But there's still so much more that I want to get done. And so I think that's definitely a challenge. And it's probably one of the biggest ones. And just being able, wanting to really deliver on those things, and wanting to be able to deliver on those things quickly. Um, and you know, on the inverse, like when at times everything just feels so slow, but then it could speed up so fast. Like when you're in the middle of a legislative session and then everything has to be done like yesterday.
Or like a
And
pandemic hits
yeah,
and all of a sudden you aren't constrained by all these rules. It's like, "We
absolutely.
need this yesterday." And you're like,
And
"We can do that."
and it all makes sense. Like, the speed of which we work, and it's not an indictment on the people. And we have the most passionate people, I would say, work for government, work in public service because they have this part of them that is really just tied to service, and it's really tied to wanting to give back to community, give back to their neighbors, give a little piece of themselves and invest a piece of themselves into something that's much bigger than them. And that's what really called me to it from my time in the Marine Corps, and really kept me in the public service. And so I love the people that I work with. And that's what keeps me doing it every day. And so the system that we work in is really designed to ensure that we are good stewards of the resources that we're entrusted to protect. And so it is meant to have all of these checks, all these balances, all these processes, all these layers of bureaucracy. And that's to ensure that just one person can't just run away and just make all these decisions without layers of protection wrapped around it. So it is by design. It's to ensure that the taxpayers are taken care of. And,
It doesn't mean
one
it's not frustrating
yeah,
sometimes,
it's
and
incredibly frustrating,
yeah.
especially those in our vendor community. Like, we get it, we understand it. Hang in there, like,
Yep.
we understand, we get it. But there is ways that we can kind of oh, there's a lot of people that we have been working on this, and we have been talking about how do we speed up procurement. I think that it right now in my community in Nasio, it's our top project this year. Is we're talking about how can we expedite procurement, especially in the world of IT. And, I just had a conversation today with our chief procurement officer for the state. How do we talk about this? How do we speed up IT procurement in the state? How do we leverage certain contracts, different procurement vehicles? How do we speed this up? Because any progress on this is positive progress, because we know that it's a huge challenge for everybody.
Well, and, like, how do you design procurement to get the results you wanna get, right? As opposed to, like and we see this time after time, like, a department will be like, "We wanna replace this system." They put out an RFP with, 1,000 requirements. I'm
Yeah,
not even exaggerating when I like,
great.
1,000 requirements, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, "This looks so much like the system you already have." Like, what if you want change, you have to change, like no change means no change, and
Yep.
that's something that people struggle with too, like, there's that whole protectionist mindset of procurement, and we need all of these things, and, like, something we've been working on in California, and it's resonating, is, like, why? Let's
Mhm.
focus on the business problem, like, what are we trying
Yeah.
to
What are you trying to solve
accomplish?
for?
Yep, exactly. Like, what are the minimum requirements you need to have, and what are you trying to accomplish, and then let's go from there.
I One of the things that I preach in my organization is that there is no such thing as monopoly on good ideas. And so if you're going to the group of individuals that have done things a certain way for the past 10, 20 years, and you're asking them to design the requirements and everything for a replacement system that is supposed to be new, modern, to replace the old system, they're effectively going to design the old system for you.
I
And
mean, it's in their
so,
nature, that's all they
yeah.
know, right?
So, one of the approaches that I'm more keen towards is more of like the goal-based approach. Like, let the vendor community that's out there, let them kind of come to you the with the process. Give them the end state and then let them be the problem solvers. Like, here's the end state, here's the goal, here's what I'm trying to attain. Vendor community, you come to me with how you're going to solve this for me. And then they can come to me with, their novel solution on how they're going to solve this problem that I've been struggling with for the past 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
And the ye who comes to me with the best idea, with the best value proposition, you're going to be the one that gets awarded the contract.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's something that we're sort of modeling out here in the state of
Yeah,
California. We have this whole request for innovative ideas, right? Like
I like that.
the department brings a business problem and the industry brings solutions for how they can solve that problem. And they do like POCs, and I mean, it's not perfect. Frankly, like nothing in government is. And there
It
are,
doesn't have to be. Is it progress
right.
though?
Yeah, there are some speed bumps, but it's like,
Yeah.
let's get something into production. Let's do it sooner than 5 years. Like a 5 year plan for something is dead. Like it's too long. It
I
just takes too long.
I have seen far too many times that people sacrifice really good for perfect, right? And we fail to launch because we are waiting for this perfect solution that is never going to be there, and we never make progress. So let's make progress. And if progress still leaves us in a much better situation than we're in today, let's do that.
Yeah, I love that. Like, what is it? Don't let perfection, be the death of what you could accomplish. Yeah. No, it's
Yep.
true. I mean, there's literally, I won't name the department in California, but there's literally a system right now that is finally close to go live. And it's probably been like 90% there for like 3 years, but they're
Mm,
like, no, no, we have to be like 99% there. And I'm like,
mm.
oh, this is torture. It's just absolute torture. And you're depriving ultimately the citizens of having a better solution in place.
Right. I'm so proud of Nevada DMV with their transformation effort, because what they're doing is they're doing a very modular approach to what they're for their transformation effort. So, what they're doing is they're breaking their whole modernization transformation effort into bite-sized pieces, and they're looking at it transaction by transaction. And so instead of doing this one massive launch of everything web enabled, everything all at once, they're going transaction by transaction. So instead of having to come into office now, like for like 85, 90% of your transactions, you can now do that online. And that's how they did it. Is they did it each transaction at a time. And so like now I believe you can do all of your commercial title transactions 100% online. You don't even have to step foot in a Nevada DMV to do
Yeah.
that. They launched kiosks. So now you can visit a Nevada supermarket to do a whole bunch of DMV transactions at a kiosk at a supermarket in Nevada. Right. So just really novel, interesting approaches like that, where they're just trying to meet Nevadans where they are. And they did it bite sized pieces.
I was just thinking about that and, meeting people where they are. I think it's also a generational thing.
Yep.
Like my mom wants to go into an office and she
Absolutely.
wants to like hold that paper and she still has a printer and it's just a different generation and a different way of wanting to interact with your
Yeah.
government that I think like we have to continuously keep up with that and I love that sort of let's just go transaction by transaction, process by process. Let's
Yep.
just sort of sort through it and pick the low hanging fruit first, the easy stuff first, so that we can show measurable progress. And that really builds you support for those continuing modernizations, right?
Yeah. And the project manager and change manager in me loves that. Because for your project teams, your technical teams on the ground, that's going to give them some wins, right? Like that's going to give them some wins. That's going to start building confidence. You give them some successes that they can, build upon, and then they're just going to be able to move farther, faster, and be able to deliver more for you because you start building a cohesive team, right? So give
Yeah.
them some wins. Find
And
some,
keeps them
low hanging fruit.
motivated
Yeah,
instead of being like, you have to wait 7 to 10 years for that win. Like,
you're
no,
going to
let's,
lose most of your team after the first
yeah,
two.
right? Yeah. Okay. One thing before we wrap up here. what do you want, like, when you're on to your next thing, when you're old and gray and retired, what do you want the legacy to be? Like, what do you wanna be remembered for in your time as the CIO?
Oh, man. Um, that I gave a crap. I mean, to be candid, and that, you know, I that I care about my people, that I care about the state, that I cared about the infrastructure, that I made a good positive impact, right? That I was a good steward to our infrastructure, um, that I left it better than I found it.
Well, I love that, and I think you're on track to make that happen for what it's worth, from my
Appreciate it.
observations. Tim, it's been awesome to chat with you and go through this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about do you like this podcasting thing?
Yeah,
Like, tell me a
yeah,
little
this is
bit
kind of
about
fun.
what you're thinking here.
I kind of dig it. I've been chatting with my chief communications and policy guy. We've been talking about beginning to host our own as just another communications vehicle to really reach out to Nevadans and other folks that are interested in what's going on with technology in Nevada. We found that, a lot of times when we hear about government technology from government technologists, it's generally about when projects go south and it's all the bad news. And we wanted to kind of look for opportunities to talk about the other things, right? The other 90% of things that when technology does good and is impactful, and talk about the technologists, right? And talk about the really great public servants that don't necessarily get heard from very often. And so um, I think they've got some really, really cool, interesting stories to tell. So that's really the premise of what we're trying to do, to try to highlight them and a lot of the really cool work that they're doing in state government. We're toying with some names, so hopefully we'll be able to talk about that. One of the names we're floating right now is Tech Talks with Tim.
I love Tech Talks with
It should be
Tim.
fun.
It's like it's a fun and you key in on the illiterate, the T's in it.
The
So yeah,
alliteration, yeah,
I'm supportive of it. You've got
awesome.
your first listener in me, and I love that. I think it's been really fun. It's fun for me to do this. I think it's just sort of this is not my day job. This wouldn't be your day job either, but
No,
it is sort of just like another way to sort of meet people where they are and sort of
absolutely,
open the discussions about it, which, no one wants to read a press release anymore. No one's reading an email, a mailing list anymore. So it's like meeting people where they are again with
absolutely.
another tool. I love it. All right, Tim, thank you so much.
Thank you
Godspeed.
for
Keep
having
doing
me.
the great work. And, our platform, you'll have Tech Talks with Tim, but our platform's always open to you. We want some updates on all the awesome work you're doing
So
as
much stuff.
time moves along here.
Absolutely, Jim. Thank you so much for having me. I definitely appreciate you.
Thank you.